Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social on this Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everyone. It's Bill K. Thanks for kicking off the celebration there. I'm joined by my panel, joined by Mark from On Liberty, Pete from Pete McConville YouTube channel, Patrick from Pocket Watch Time, Todd from TikTok Talk on the Instagrams, and then you know who I am. So we're going to do ultimate guide to traveling with watches. So tips, tricks, what watches to take. So it should be quite an interesting show. But before we dive into all of that, should we do a wristwatch check? Mark, you're in the hot seat. Do you want to kick us off? Ooh.
Come on, puppy. You focused perfectly in practice. So this is the Christopher Ward C65 black and gold. It was a limited edition. It's supposed to be related to the John Player Special Lotuses from the 70s, but no. But this is a bronze watch, my only bronze watch, but it's been PVD plated with gold to make it look copper, and very nice little dress watch. Don't wear it often, but it's nice to have it when you want it.
So it won't patina at all then if it's coated?
Well, I think it's getting darker, but I haven't seen it for a while, so that just might be my memory. The idea is you use the gold to stop oxygen getting to the surface, so the gold forms a barrier layer so that oxygen and moisture can't get to the bronze surface. I suspect eventually, gaseous diffusion being what it is, it probably will, but it'll take a very, very long time to do so.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll come back in 20 years and check it.
Yeah.
Pete, what are you wearing?
That almost motivated me to go race out and get a bronze watch, but no, I'm wearing my Seiko SBDC Mini Marine Master. Probably the Seiko that made me find my level. What I mean by that is I always liked Seiko, but I started with an SKX, which I thought was an awful watch, and then went to a Turtle and a Samurai, which were much, much nicer, but never quite made it, never quite felt right. But whereas a lot of people think these are overpriced, this is where I think key Seiko is. 6R SBDC, killer watches, good price. I love these.
What size is that? When you said it's Mini Marine Master?
I'm going to go 42-ish.
Okay.
Something like
that's
that.
A manageable size.
Yeah,
cool. Patrick, what are you wearing?
Well, I'm picking up a not so mini, and since I wore it on Tuesday because I'm at Grandma's house, so I think I just brought one watch. I'm not living the life for the travel people, but this is the Panerai Luminor Tantalum, made out of some fun little tantalum metal, and it's old school enough it still has a cool movement.
Oh,
that's
wow,
nice.
Yeah,
so always fun when you get to see the fun little movement there. But just a good little watch, and I'll tell you later why it's a watch I often travel with.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Todd, you're up next. What are you wearing?
I've got the new to me, and I've heard this coined phrase. It's the Silver Surfer. So it is the Tudor Black Bay and the silver dial. It's the previous model, which I personally prefer, but I got it in the 41, and I didn't think I'm actually in love with this watch. This has become the new daily. I love my blue one in 36, but this guy is just everything. It's life.
I am wearing my Seiko GMT, Sumo GMT. I've got another one on the bench that I'm going to do a review of. This is Vero, Portland company. So put this more on this Seiko later as we get into the topic. So let's kick this off with, I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks, and my dilemma is, So this is like a therapy session, I think, rather than a. The dilemma is like, how do you pick a watch to go traveling with? What is the criteria? So maybe we'll go round the panel and see if there's any tips or tricks. Or I'll start with you, Mark. Like when you're traveling, how do you pick, and do you take more than one watch? Or?
It depends where I'm going. I prefer to take one watch if I can, and one watch that will do everything I need it to do. So if I anticipate going paddling, it's got to have some water resistance. If I'm anticipating a posh dinner, it's got to look smart enough. So I find quite often that a Seamaster is the perfect watch for travel. That's okay. Put it on the bracelet. It's waterproof, and it can look smart enough for a good dinner, and no one's going to cut my hand off for it. Which is an important factor. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just traveling recently, and it's not like it's not I was looking around my surroundings and went, I kind of slipped my watch into my pocket when no one was paying attention, and kind of went about my business because I don't know where I am, and I'm not really comfortable what's the scene here at the moment. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that might be a good topic for later actually. But I'll go around the panel. Pete, when you travel, do you take more than one watch? How do you decide?
I pretty much always take more than one watch. So there's in deciding which watch to take, there's a combination of I like changing it up. I rarely wear one watch 2 days in a row, so I take normally at least two, so I can at least swap over. And then I try and think a little bit like Mark. Something's going to have to be a little bit. Normally, I'll have something which is particularly versatile, or particularly rugged, so I can pretty much wear it doing anything, and another one which is a little bit more fun. So that's kind of how I choose watches to take. If I'm staying with family, or if I'm going somewhere where like the house is, and that's probably one of the things. Jump to the next one. One of the big issues about traveling is, there's really three. There's security kind of while you're traveling, then there's security when you're out and about wearing it, and then there's the probably the hardest one to control is the security of your watches back in the hotel room. So you've really got those three things. If I'm traveling and I'm staying with family, or I'm staying somewhere where I feel super safe about where the things are stored, oh, bugger it, I'll take 5 watches. That's the only time it's a problem. So like my last trip where I was staying at my daughter's place, I just took a bunch of watches. Generally, if I'm staying at a hotel, I'll take 2. And then one of those watches will always be with me. And this is where I suppose I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective, maybe. My hobby is photography. I've traveled around with expensive lenses and cameras for probably, really since 2008 when I took this up. And so I travel everywhere with expensive stuff, which has always been prone to getting stolen. So it's not like a new thing, which seems to be the case in watches. So I just follow exactly the same protocols I do when I take cameras. If I'm out, the cameras come with me. If I'm, if I'm in a hotel, you find places where you can store stuff safely. If I've got a $5,000 lens, it's no different to a $5,000 watch. So it's really the same, to the point that they all travel in the same backpack, which is just a very ordinary, plain-looking backpack, but from the outside. But from the inside, it's actually a solid, hard carbon fiber shell. Can't cut through it. Can't break into it. You can only access it if I take it off. The straps are all Kevlar, can't be cut. And I have a couple of what are they? Mountain climbing carabiners. So if I do put it down anywhere, I can just lock it in an instant to something solid, so it can't be taken. And that's how I travel with watches.
Mm-hmm.
What to save me answering multiple comments after the fact, what brand is the bag?
Okay, so the bag can no longer be purchased. It was made by a company called Crumpler.
The best bag makers.
Yeah, they are. I love their bags.
Yeah.
They made this bag probably about 5 years ago. And I bought two, a small and a big. I've traveled everywhere around the world with them. They've been fantastic.
Yeah, because Crumpler, they're still going because they were Australian, weren't they?
Yeah, they're still going. They seem to have some sort of issue. They try to expand to become sell bags for everybody and everything. It looks like they've shrunk back down to doing their message bags and a little bit of messenger bags and a bit of luggage. So they don't do camera stuff anymore, which is a real shame because their camera stuff was brilliant.
Yeah, I had a Crumpler bag for years as my laptop bag because it's padded inside, isn't it? Now I use a Fjällräven one, which is just as good because I couldn't get a Crumpler one, but I had a Crumpler camera bag for ages. They're absolutely fantastic bags. If you can get them, you can get them on eBay, I think, still. But anyway,
Patrick, got a Crumpler for a camera bag too, but it's not like his. It's a great bag. That's the messenger style one, but they're great bags. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, I had I had a backpack that was Nikon branded.
No, don't do that.
I know, but the thing, the bottom kind of unzipped so you could access the cameras while you were still wearing the bag. I know. I mean, it is what it is.
I even take the straps off the cameras and put generic straps on. Well,
really,
and also the fact that they're more comfortable, typically Optech straps, but they're broad and padded, quite stretchy.
Yeah.
So one, they're not Nikon branded, and two, they are extremely comfortable, much better than the Nikon straps. So always take the strap off and put a proper one on.
Do you think that? Because I would think that a watch would catch the eye of a thief more than a lens.
It depends on it depends on the size of your camera, Sam.
Yeah, got one of those massive, massive ones because you're taking, pictures of royalty on yachts. But do you think that? I mean, I've definitely heard of people having their watches stolen, but I don't think I've ever heard of anyone having lenses stolen. But I mean,
I think Mark's right, making the good point. If you're walking around in branded packaging, you will become a target because those are pawnable and easy to move.
And lenses are treated a little bit like watches. Camera bodies, less so. Camera bodies come and go, but lenses will last 20 years.
Yeah.
So, whereas camera bodies they depreciate like any other electronic item. Lenses tend to keep their value and are traded and tradable. So, I worry much more about the lenses than the cameras.
It depends where I'm going. If I'm going motor racing, all the long lenses are too heavy to truck about. So I tend to stay close to my car and do journeys to and from a locked car. So when I want to change lenses because they're just too damn heavy. But if I'm traveling, I'll either use a very small camera, or if I'm taking the big stuff, it's always with me.
Yeah.
But I don't take many lenses when I'm doing that. More into landscape and architecture. So a good wide angle is sometimes all I ever need.
I must admit, I have shrunk right down. I carry far less lenses than I used to.
Yeah, I'm getting older. I just don't want to carry them anymore.
Well, that's good to know, isn't it? Well, Patrick, I'll go to you just as you've taken a giant swig of water.
Oh no, it's perfect.
How do you decide on your watches, and how many do you take, and what do you do? And
learning about so much stuff today, I had to Google Crumpler backpacks because that sounds amazing. I want a backpack that's got Kevlar straps because that just definitely sounds like a need be for dangerous spots. And of course, I know nothing about cameras, so I am 100% iPhone. But when it comes to this wonderful thing called traveling, I'm going to say things that are going to make me a horrible watch person. if I'm just off to go see family or something like that, I don't bring any watches. I go naked wristed, because going through airport security and taking my watch off, getting it magnetized, all the annoying stuff that can happen versus travel, I just leave it at home. Because, you know, if I had a G-Shock, which one day I'll buy, you know, that would be fine. But most of the time, I mean, it's kind of a jewelry accessory. If I'm going to a cool city where I want to wear a cool watch, I bring watches. If I'm just going to go to my family and they don't give a rat's patoot about, you know, any of these things, you know, who am I wearing a watch for? Nobody. And, you know, if I'm just laying around on the couch watching television and eating my not mother-in-law, my what do you call your brother's wife? My wife-in-law, but
sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law. There you go. My sister-in-law's bland food. Then you know, what's the point? I don't think anybody watches. But the idea, see, as they don't care about watches, they won't even watch this. But you know, I don't carry that. When it comes to traveling to cool cities, though, my only recommendation is get yourself a cheap watch roll. Don't buy an expensive one. Don't buy one from a brand that you care about. You know, I got this one as a free kit for doing a review, and you know, it's made out of some rugged leather and it's hard-sided. You know, this means I can bring 3 watches, and I don't have to worry about it. If this scrapes up against the metal thing in my bag and scratches the hell out of it, I don't care. You know, it's really just it's about having a sturdy protection, similar to Pete's bag, which sounds awesome. But when it comes then to traveling, what do I choose? Kind of like everybody else, I pick something that covers a couple genres. If my wife and I are going to go out to a nice restaurant, you know, not that I own a single dress watch, but I would at least wear something that isn't so flashy or big or like weird. And so I just want to pick 3. And I also, next weird kind of rule, I don't bring automatic watches because I don't want to have to wind them and worry about them. I bring quartz or manual wind. But and that's the whole idea of, you know, why I brought this to Grandma's house last week, because I'm coming to Grandma's house. No one here cares about watches, so I brought one, and it's manual wind, which means on the rare day that I wear it, I can wind it, and for the rest of the days, just sits around doing nothing. But my take home points is get yourself a rugged something to put your watches in, because, you know, that's probably the most important thing. And also when it comes to security, you know, when I'm in a hotel, I just throw this into the safe and I don't have to worry about random things floating around. It's just one little brick. And as long as I know where my brick is, you know, I know my watches are secure. And so get yourself some safe thing to put it in and bring what you need to bring to enjoy your trip. And that's about it.
Yeah, I always wear a watch regardless of what I'm doing. I couldn't go anywhere without a watch. It would give me anxiety for some reason. I just always wear a watch, even though I know obviously I've got the time all around me, but I always have a watch with me. I couldn't go anywhere without a watch. I'd feel like something was missing.
Oh, and I know there's different people for it. My wife and I are the same way with our wedding rings. I mean,
I know where mine.
Guys, I put my wedding ring on for you because I'm sitting at home doing nothing. You know, the minute I get home, my shoes come off, my watch comes off, my wedding ring comes off, and you know, I've got a good friend of mine, and she's an older lady, and you know, her wedding ring from being married 40 years. I mean, you would have to amputate her finger to take the ring off. I mean, her finger is like grown over the ring almost, and you know, she's never taken it off in 40 years. And to me, that would drive me bonkers. Maybe I'm just too much of an OCD clean freak, but you know, even in the hospital when I'm cleaning my hands, if I get some of the chemicals underneath my ring, it starts like eating my hand. So generally speaking, you know, I just don't like things on if, you know, I don't really have a reason for it. So as I said, I'm the opposite, but I know I'm weird on that. Most watch people, you know, wear watches to bed, wear watches in the shower. And, you know, for me, as I said, they go right back on the watch box the minute I get home.
If I didn't wear my wedding ring and my watch on my left hand, I'd have no clue which hand was which. It's the only way I know is that I've got, ring, watch. Therefore, I know what this is the left hand. Only way I'd ever know.
Yeah, I still get it mixed up, and even though I can do those memory tricks, I still get my left and right mixed up. Todd, what's your method, your travel method for how many watches and what watch you take?
Well, I have a variety of options, but first of all, I'm the exact opposite of Patrick. I don't care if people around me like watches. I like the watches. I sometimes sit and just Google and stare at my watches because I enjoy them, and that's why I get them. So I take more than I should, except if it's a work trip like the one I was recently on. It was one watch and then a G-Shock, maybe with a world time function, which I love this one. This is the greatest $29 watch you can get.
Oh, let's do it full screen.
It's the Royale, I think they call it.
Oh yeah,
Royale.
Yeah, and the world time function is one button away, and you're in different time zones, and it's a fantastic watch. I love that watch. And then if I'm doing that, then I'll keep my good watch in my pocket, going through the airport, in a nice little sleeve off of Amazon. I never buy anything expensive for travel, like you said, Patrick. This can be beat up. I don't care. It does everything it needs to protect the watch in my pocket. And then if I'm going to take a trip where I take multiple watches, I like to keep mine in my backpack. And the thing like Patrick has, that's a little bit bulky for my backpack. So I have one of these just like leather watch rolls. Oh yeah. And then what I do to protect the back is I got these pieces of suede leather that you get off Amazon, and I cut them into little squares and put it between the bracelet and the back so it doesn't get all scratched up. And then, see, this is when I'm a nerd. When I'm on like a trip where it's just relaxing, and you're just going to be there. Part of the fun for me is taking a bunch of pictures for my Instagram. So I take a whole bunch of watches like a big nerd. And I got this thing off of Amazon, and it's great. It holds 8 watches.
Oh, yeah.
4 on each side. And then I keep a couple of these little silica packs in there, and
this is already far too much effort.
It's part of the fun for me. I just love it. Like then I'll take the watches and put them in a fanny pack and go around sightseeing and take pictures for the afternoon. It's ridiculous and silly, and that's what this hobby is.
Yeah.
Well, on that, there's perfect agreement. Yeah.
I'm with you, Todd. I do exactly the same. If I can, that's when I was saying before. If I feel safe and comfortable, I'll take a bunch of watches. And so how do you reckon half my collection has now got like the Sydney Harbour Bridge in the background at some point, which I can roll out for that day that the Instagram needs a shot, but you know what? It's horrible and I can't get outside. I generate most of my B-roll photos when I'm out on some sort of work trip, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly what I used to do. If I going on a work trip, I'll usually take the watch that I'm reviewing at the time. But I've definitely started traveling with this Seiko. The GMT function's useless on it. I mean, it might as well not be there. But unless I could upgrade the bezel to a 24-hour bezel. But like Patrick, I actually really like the fact that this is quartz. I guess another question is, I travel a lot for work, so I go through a lot of the X-rays and the the Lido thing scanner where you put your hands up. I used to always take my watch off, but I never do it now. I always wear it through the scanner. Anybody else do that? Or
I'm surprised.
I always.
Yeah, I tried.
I don't take.
They yelled at me and were threatening to throw me in airport prison if I didn't take it off fast enough. So I'm surprised they let you walk in and do the.
Oh yeah, they do.
I don't take anything off unless I don't take anything off unless I'm told to. So I'll walk through with everything, and then they'll say, "Excuse me, sir, you need to take these things off." You shrug, take them off.
Yeah,
and this is
I stick them in an inside pocket of a jacket.
Yeah.
So that, but I do that beforehand, so they're zipped into a jacket pocket well before I get to the scanner.
Yeah, I used to do that. I do that with my wallet and stuff. But yeah, Kent, their TSA pre-allows you to keep it on. Yeah, they never used to though.
No, and I've run into it a couple times now. I've pre-checked, and like I don't know if there's too much metal in this one, but it set off the metal detector, and they made me take it off, and then they panic when it's on the belt in a bowl. then you're like, oh no, I don't want that. So I just preempt that now.
No, I mean, it depends, doesn't it? I travel through a lot of different airports in the US, and honestly, like some of them just like pick and choose the rules. I think sometimes, they do. Like some of the, like I haven't taken. I was in an airport and they made me take my toiletries out of my bag, and I bet you I've not done that for 3 years. In a domestic flight.
Yeah.
In pre-check?
Yeah.
If you had pre-check?
No, I don't go through pre-check.
Oh, you got to get pre-check. It's the best thing.
Well, yeah, but it actually is. Do you know what? I've not had pre. This is a whole separate thing. I've not had pre-check for the last 7 years, and I travel a lot. And it totally depends. Like, I bet you there's only been 4 occasions where it actually would have saved me time. I think the other times, that's a lie. Actually, that's a lie. Scrap that. There's a bunch of times, but I just never do it. But it's never caused me an issue, I suppose.
Well, I don't travel as much as you guys do, but my wife travels for work, and so she has pre-check and global entry and all those cool things. And every time she abandons me and runs to the pre-check counter, and she's pretty much sitting on the other side drinking a coffee by the time that I get through. So
isn't that
and she
perfect,
takes all
Patrick?
the family's toiletries so that they just leave her alone. So as I said, it seems like it works well, but as I said, if you guys travel more, maybe you know more.
I might get it.
That was perfect, Patrick, because then your wife has bought your coffee, not the vice versa.
Well, like when I travel for work, it's usually I have maybe 2 laptops because we have like a floating laptop and then an engineering laptop, and then I have an iPad. And it was like I was like that guy. I'd be like 4 bins of stuff before I even got to my backpack, and you don't have to do that with pre-check. Just put the whole thing through. Yeah,
I do that. I have to travel with demo tablets, so so that's why I stopped. I just use my phone on a plane. I don't bring my own tablet with me. I usually have two demo tablets. But okay, so next on the list then is, we've talked about watch rolls, but is there any other watch accessories anybody here take? Does anybody take extra straps, strap changing tools, or anything else that? Yeah, go on.
I knew it.
Go on.
Wow.
Oh yeah, man. If you're gonna take other pictures, you got to have other looks on it. You got to try the straps on. I'm all in.
Yep, I do, but I prepare for it even differently, because as people might know, I hate bracelets. So I just make sure that generally, if I'm traveling, every watch I take will be on NATOs, and then I just have a bunch of NATOs to change over.
Sure.
Okay.
I like the quick release strap. I love this kind of change to quick release with the rubber straps and leather too, which is nice.
I can't imagine being 1, organized enough, or 2, as OCD and difficult as I can be, taking watch tools with me. I admire your dedication to watch photography, guys. You are my heroes, but you're also insane.
I was going to say, if all 4 of you guys said that you brought tools and I was a lone man out,
horror.
I would have to find myself another podcast.
No,
I don't take.
This tool is beautiful.
No, I don't take tools.
It's simple. It's easy. And you can also clean your teeth with this side, so it's great. It's handy.
Yeah. We got a question. So Thomas is asking, do you travel with your best or nice watches, or do you generally take a beater or one of the lower grade watches when traveling abroad?
Depends what.
Yeah, depends where.
Depends where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I'll be at the outlier on that one. Because I don't wear my watches, let's say, all the time, I just bring what I want to bring. So I don't care about their value. I mean, I'm not going to be a dummy. And, if my friend says, hey, let's go to the Bronx or something, and I'm going to wear something like expensive. No, not for that dinner trip. But I'm not afraid to bring something expensive to a bad city. I just may not wear it depending on where we're going that day in that city. So, no, I don't change what I would bring, except that it usually follows the other rules of it's probably going to be a manual wind. It's probably going to be quartz. I don't want to deal with automatic rotors and having to wind things too much, and definitely not bringing any tools.
I will say I've purchased I know it's a dirty word, the Hodinkee insurance for my better watches. and that insurance seems to be pretty broad in its coverage. The underlying coverage is through a company called Chubb, and that gives me a lot of peace of mind. If something were to go poorly, I've got insurance. So I will say that for the better watches, I have those on there.
Pete, what do you go on?
As I said earlier, really my only consideration isn't really the city I go to, but rather, or the place I'm going, but rather the security at the hotel, because that's the part where sort of I'm not there to look after it. But assuming that's okay, as far as going out and about, there's only one place I've ever gone and thought to myself, you know what, I'm not going to take pretty much any watch I own. And that was Papua New Guinea. You know, when I've been there 3 times now on work trips, and the security briefing you get when you go into Papua New Guinea is actually longer than the briefing I got when I went to Pakistan or Iraq. So it's the only place I've been where they told you, look, if you're driving along and you hit someone, don't stop. So that's the only place I've ever gone where I thought to myself, you know what, I'm not taking anything more than a Seiko that costs a couple $100. Everywhere else, I just take whatever.
When I went to Iceland, just as the Eyjafjallajökull volcano stopped, I think we were the first flight in after they allowed flights. For that trip, I took a G-Shock because there's no way any mechanical item is going near that volcanic dust, because it will eat through every seal you can think of. But you know, I've done trips with just a G-Shock because it's easy.
That's true.
You don't have to worry about it. Sometimes you just don't want to worry about it. You just don't care. If I'm going on a chemical plant, guess what? I'm taking the G-Shock.
Yeah, it was funny. I've been to some places where when I wore my Speedmaster and it was my only watch, and I used to forget about it, I'd go like swimming and stuff with it, even though it had like a 30 meter. And I think I even took it to Venice, which I think in retrospect, I was a bit nervous about afterwards, because of this. Venice, as long as many cities, there's got quite a lot of pickpockets there. So that in retrospect, I perhaps shouldn't have done that. But you know, because I think the Omega, it had just the friction clasp on that one, so I think somebody could have got it off my wrist quite quick. But anyway, that's a whole separate thing. Let's just see if we've got any questions. Oh yeah, so Martin here saying he's going to go on holiday with the CWC diver, which I think that's a great all rounder, isn't it? It's quartz. It can go on a NATO, Pete, so you can swap it out plenty. Yeah. It's robust. You have no problem swimming in it.
Yeah, I agree on the idea of quartz. By the way, when I travel, because I've reshaped my collection, I've actually only got one quartz watch. So that pretty much travels with me all times. There are places where I've woken up and realized sometimes when you travel, particularly when I travel, I'll be traveling to a place where I can't rely on the Wi-Fi. And one place I went to recently, the phone system would drop out occasionally. So God forbid you actually needed your watch to tell the time. So I actually take one quartz watch that I know was set and I can set everything else from. So my Grand Seiko is traveling a bit at the moment. And I think I'll have to get I'm thinking a Breitling Aerospace of some sort will probably join the collection as soon as a new one becomes available, which I think must be pretty soon, because Hodinkee has started doing articles talking about how wonderful classic aerospaces are. And they only run those sorts of articles when someone's paying them because they're getting the market ready for a new one.
Yeah, they're depositing in the emotional bank account, do they call it in marketing? So they're getting you hooked on an idea. Does anyone? I have an obsession when I get on a plane. Like the first thing that I do is set my watch to the time zone that I'm going to, so that I can take. Go on, Todd. You're going to back me up on this one.
Absolutely. It's like that way I know when I'm landing and I can keep an eye on the time while I travel. Yeah, it's stupid and OCD, but yeah, I do that every time.
That's why this Seiko is so good.
Guilty.
That's why the Seiko is so good, because you can notch the hour hand back up. I don't know if that's a true GMT or whatever, but the hour hand moves independently to the
That's
watch.
a traveler slash true GMT.
That's
Yeah.
the true GMT. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I must admit I'm always a little surprised that people must have these instantaneous travel processes, these special like transport, Star Trek transporters that I'm not familiar with, because there's all these people saying, oh, it's absolutely essential that if you're traveling, you have a traveler GMT, because apparently they only have nanoseconds to change the time. And for them, it's like, oh my God, I've turned up in another time zone. How did that happen? I need to be able to change. I'm just an ordinary player, but I have to use airplanes. So it takes hours to get somewhere. And you know what? In those hours, filling up 2 minutes, changing my time on the watch, no big deal. So I'd love to know how these people that say, I will only travel with a traveler GMT, how the hell are they moving? What Star Trek tech are they using? And does it magnetize their watch? And if you use a transporter, and then you get to the other end, is your watch still original?
Oh yeah, it's been rebuilt. Or what happens is if an Invicta flies in at the same time, does it merge with your watch?
Well,
that's right.
The OCD part of me on the Traveler GMT is when that hour hand, you can go mess up the date now. And now it's a whole other process. And on my collar GMT, when you go around too far, but on my collar GMTs, that doesn't change the date. When I'm moving that into it, so it's like I like that feature better. That's me personally. I'm with Pete. Who's traveling like that?
Well, other than Hodinky writers,
right?
I just do it whether it's a traveler or a caller GMT because I will forget if I don't. So that when I get to my destination and think I'm 7 or 8 hours out, that would confuse me more.
Yeah, I like a GMT, so I always know that the home time zone as well. Yeah. So that is one thing that is useful. Not on this Seiko because it's quite hard to read, but that's what I like a normal GMT for is knowing what the home time zone is. Because it's like, oh, what time is it back at home? For some reason, I think maybe that's a British thing. But
someone had a comment here about Apple Watch Ultra is a great travel watch, and I get that, but I quit traveling with my Apple Watch because having to take the charger, and that's a whole other thing now I got to deal with. I just rather carry a G-Shock. I mean, I love an Apple Watch.
Our friends visited the other day. Our friends visited a couple of weeks ago, and that was the first thing that she, our friend, she'd forgotten her charger, so we had to go and get a charger because it's 24 hours. It's gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why if you are, we'll go sideways for a second and talk about best smartwatches for travel. 100% absolutely Garmin's with the solar recharge. If I'm careful, I can easily get 40 days out of my Garmin. Yeah. And if I want to, I can if I was like deliberate about making sure I got it in the sun when I wasn't wearing it, I could probably go indefinitely without actually ever connecting to a charger.
Is that right, Pete? Because I made a cheeky throwaway comment that because I've just reviewed the G-Shock, wherever it is, the solar one, and I had the solar Garmin, and you could see the solar thing, and I left that Garmin for a day or so on there. I suspected it was a myth, the solar, both on the Garmin and the G-Shock, but you think that actually you can recharge a watch from near empty to full on solar?
Oh no! You can't you won't be able to do that. But what I can say is you can, like, if I've gone for a run where I've had GPS and I've been playing music and everything, so it's a big drainer, and then you come back and it might be at say 50%. Then what I'll do is when I'm having a shower and everything, I'll put it out in the sun, leave it there, come back, and it will be at 60%. And you just keep giving it these little hops and you can extend it out. And I haven't got to the point where it's the longest trip I've done has been a little over a month. I left when it was 100%. I came back and it was like 25%.
Impressive.
Yeah.
And
that is really interesting because I thought that it was a bit of a marketing gimmick.
No, the Garmin stuff definitely works.
And the more transmitting or receiving features you turn off, the longer they'll last.
That's right.
I mean,
So I turn.
Yeah.
Go on, Mark.
I was going to say, if you don't need it, turn Bluetooth off straight away, because that's just a battery hog anyway.
Yeah, that was it. Maybe what was it? We've got a question coming in here saying. So Peter's saying, if you're going to spend time on the coast, a tide graph is a nice thing to have. I think that tide graphs, are they useful for surfers? Is there another use for a tide graph that
I use a tide graph probably 4 to 5 days a week.
Really?
And for a very, very specific purpose. Just around the corner from us, we have an enormous dog beach, but it is so much more fun at low tide. It's one of those beaches that's really shallow, and when the tide goes out, it opens up like a couple hundred, probably another square kilometre or two of places where the dogs can run. So you try to go at low tide. So yeah, I have a tide graph function on my watch permanently, on my smartwatch. I just flip it across, see when it's low tide, and that's when Sabine knows she's getting a run.
How does this is a total thing, but I don't even understand how a tide graph works. I mean, I understand like it shows you a little thing of high and low, but how does it work it out based on just the time? Does it work out the time of the date and then the?
It's really no different to a moon phase in a way. It just I would guess they all work slightly differently. You could have pre-programmed ones. You could have ones which just poll the local, your local weather bureau, for example, and then generate one. For a smartwatch, there's any number of ways you could do it. But I'm pretty sure the one I've got is kind of calendar based. So yeah, it's like a moon phase.
Okay. I mean, it is something that can be calculated in advance. So particularly, it helps. Depends how accurate you want it to be, but as Peter says, it's calculated from the movements of the moon. That's what affects the tides. Yeah,
the only time it might get a little bit weird is like, for example, we're inside a bay, so it's what happens at certain beaches at certain parts of the bay can be delayed from what's happening outside because the tide goes out, but the bay has to drain. So it's occasionally you'll get those little things, but generally it's like a moon phase. It's just as regular as the moon moving.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's another good one. So Martin's saying here, I wash my watch after a dip in the sea to get the salty water out. How about you guys? I do that. Yeah. Not because I think the stainless steel is going to rust, but the spring bars are a bugger for rusting with salt water.
Also, if you have a bezel, the sand can get up under that bezel. You want to rinse that out too. That's a heck on the mechanical.
And it's not just salt water, but sunscreen. Sunscreen is a bugger. So if you're as pale as I am, and you spend all day outside, several layers of SPF 50 are what you're going to end up with. And if you've got the sports stuff, you're looking at 4 showers to get it off because it will not come off once you've layered it like that. But of course, then that's on your watch. So it's next to your wrist. You take your watch off, you apply the sunscreen, you put your watch back on, and guess what? Your watch is now marinating in sunscreen. So when I get home, goes in a bowl of clean water with a couple of drops of washing up liquid for an hour. Change the water, and then if necessary, give it a gentle rub with the toothbrush because sunscreen will never come off if you let it dry.
What's the risk? Do you worry about it getting in the seals as well, rotting the seals out, or just the feel?
No, I mean, let's face it. If you've got a watch that's got a 100-meter water resistance. It's supposed to keep water out, and the oil and water and sunscreen will stay out too. I just don't worry about it. I just don't like it sitting there.
It'll collect dirt, it'll
because it'll collect dirt, and that's why I tend not to travel with watches with leather straps, because if I've only made this mistake once, is I was out for the day, I needed sunscreen, put the sunscreen on, the watch with the leather strap went back on, and 3 or 4 years later it's still sticky. I cannot get all the sunscreen residue out of that leather. That's why I would tend to travel with a bracelet or a rubber strap, not a leather strap, because I've learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, I would never travel with a leather strap. Does anybody else feel that way? I would never.
Well,
no, I travel with them all the time.
I mean, if I'm traveling for work, yes, but if I'm traveling for a holiday, no, probably almost certainly not. Well, unless I knew I was keeping it in the hotel for the posh dinner in the evening. But
yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you guys all for proving my method of not wearing watches when you don't have to, because I don't have to go through a 4-hour cleaning routine for my watches at the beach. You
just put it in a bowl of water and walk away.
Fine, but I mean, if my wife and family, we're planning a beach afternoon, I don't wear a watch just because, I don't need it. And I also don't bring my phone because I don't need to know what time it is because we're at the beach. And so I know I'm a weird person. But,
who is this guy? Who brought him here?
Know, you're a
there's someone who's
prime wrist shot and B-roll. The watch's B-roll beach is the gift that keeps them giving.
But I will agree with you guys. No leather straps. As I said, I don't think besides an old trench watch, I even own a leather strap that's on a watch. Like the minute I get a watch with leather, that leather is gone because I don't like them generally. I mean, here in Florida, can't even walk outside without having a wet wrist. So having a leather strap just sounds like a nightmare. If I was a northerner, maybe
I do like leather straps, but I wouldn't take one on holiday. I do wear leather straps around, but
I wear leather straps all the time, and I love taking them on holiday. I treat leather straps like suede boots. They're at their best when they've been beaten up. And I've said this a million times, straps are accessories. You should go through 20 or 30 straps in the life of a watch. That's what they're for. So you just use them, they burn up, they hit that magic period where the patina is just fantastic. Then at some point they go over the edge, and like a new pair of boots, you have to break a new pair in. So I don't understand this whole I'm going to keep it forever and manage it through. So I beat the hell out of my straps deliberately. I want them to look worn in, and I want them to look a bit raggy around the edges. That's like a pair of boots. That's when they're at their best. So
yeah, I'm
not a new Croc guy.
Suede shoes, like blue suede shoes.
I wanted to address something because I got called out by let's see, where is he? Kent, where he's laughing at me because I didn't want to deal with my charger, but he said you're willing to bring all the extra luggage case for all the watches and bands.
Kent, you're right.
Which is true, except now the charger of an Apple Watch is also another magnetic field that I got to now deal with in my suitcase near my watches. So another excuse, but yes, you're correct, Kent. I draw a line.
Do you actually know the field strength around that charger? Because I'm just curious. Because you sit there and say the field strength around an iPhone is supposed to be 900 and at most 900 Gauss. Is that right? It's tiny. No, it's tiny. It's tiny. So if you're sitting next to a MRI machine with a 1.5 Gauss magnet, the micro Gauss or the milli Gauss that's going to be out of a phone or a charger is tiny. And of course, it drops off with the square of the distance from it. So, most of them
have an engineer. I don't know. So here's a question. This may be a question for the masses. So even though it's small, extended exposure to that, does that change that or not? This is not my experience.
Well, it does depend on the watch, but
okay,
even something like a Milgauss, which is not the most, wasn't the most effective anti-magnetic watch anyway, was easy. Most watches now are better than they ever used to be. And an X-ray scanner should never affect a watch. That's a very short dose of high energy. The MRI, what did you call them, Sam? But the MRI, the microwave scanners they use in US airports now shouldn't affect a watch. Putting it next to a big magnet or sitting on top of the speakers at a concert, that'll magnetize a watch, but it really does take more than people think.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some Seiko watches where you only have to show the watch a picture of a magnet and it magnetizes it.
I've never managed to magnetize a watch. So actually, that's not entirely true. I have magnetized a watch when I was concerned my watch was magnetized. I got a demagnetizer, and a demagnetizer will magnetize a non-magnetized watch. So the only time I've ever magnetized a watch is when I did it. I don't know what other people are doing, or whether I'm built with some sort of Faraday cage around me and my wrist. But I have not managed to magnetize a watch.
I got
10
one
years
watch.
and owning 50-something watches.
I've done it before with Seikos, and there's an app on the phone called Lepsy that will actually you can hover it near the phone. It actually tells you where the magnet is for the compass on your phone, and if you hold the watch over it, it will actually tell you whether the watch is magnetized or not. I don't know.
I bought one off of somebody that when I got it was running extremely fast, and I put it on a demagnetizer and it solved it. So it was magnetized when I got it, but I haven't done it yet to my own watch.
I have. I've magnetized.
Never done it. I mean, I've had high-speed film fogged by an X-ray machine, but that's you would actually expect that. And nowadays, who uses 1000 ASA film anymore? Of course we don't. So that's not a problem I have to live with anymore.
Right? Yeah.
Mark, you're getting now that you're like the king of watch cleaning. Michael's asking, how do you wash your NATOs?
I don't have NATOs. It's that simple.
That's
horrible thing.
That's a soak in soapy water. They're great. NATOs are pretty versatile.
I must admit, again, my watch washing regime is very simple. I normally take them off when I'm having a shower, but if I need to wash it, I just wear it in the shower. It's done.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Chris, we used to do the podcast with. He used to loop them through his jeans and then throw in the washing machine.
Oh, that's a good call.
Fasten them on his jean loop and then throw them in.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I think sometimes they perhaps cross a line though, don't they? You never get get them back.
Yeah, it's just like I'm particularly gross, so they get salty, So if I could get them washed, it's good. I know I'm with Pete. Like I like leather getting beat up, but NATOs can get nasty.
Oh wow, the salty NATO.
No, that's a podcast we need to start.
Well, we can't, can we? After that bigger copyrighted NATO as a name.
That's a T-shirt.
Actually, no, we can. We're not using it for commercial purposes, so there's no action that the trademark guy can take against you.
Oh,
You're
really?
not selling a product using his trademark. He has no action under law. So it's only if you're misusing his trademark. So it's like when people say, I can't call them NATOs anymore. I don't understand what they think is going to happen.
Oh, yeah, like you're going to get sued or something by the NATO police.
Rolex just scared everybody when they started saying things were Jubilee and Oyster.
Yeah.
Well, I know that a micro brand close friend of mine, they're actually very worried about. They call them the NATO patent troll or the trademark troll, and there is.
If you are selling product, you are absolutely open to being sued because that's misuse of a trademark. But if you're just a commentator talking about stuff, you're not using the trademark to sell your product. You are not doing anything that is actionable.
Yeah.
So micro brands and those guys, they've got to be super careful. But we in the media, doesn't matter. Yeah.
We of the media, the learned watch media, watch influencers. Well, any last? Did we cover all of traveling? So
Sam D just asked an important question.
That is an important question.
Yeah, this is a good question, actually.
Oh, this is the Fratello watch. We went to Switzerland and got charged 4,000 euros issue, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's when that was the biggest one.
Yeah, I have bought. Have I bought an expensive watch? I have bought watches when I've gone, but I haven't bought anything like a Rolex or anything like that where I've had to post the box separately. I mean, has anybody? I mean, maybe talk about it in a third person. Has anyone had a friend that has bought a watch?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a simple answer. I just don't travel overseas with those kind of watches because I'm
bringing them back, buying them.
Well,
like
both parts, because it depends on the country with that whole Fratello thing. You know, you're getting dinged on your way in and then getting dinged on the way out. And supposedly maybe you get a refund, but maybe you don't. And it just seems like a giant pile of nonsense that I don't want to deal with. So, you know, if I was to go to those countries after reading these, and as I said, I don't know how accurate they are, you know, I probably wouldn't go with anything more than, you know, a Seiko or a G-Shock.
I know
no one cares about.
I know HM Customs got very, very good at intercepting expensive watch boxes coming into the UK, because people would do that. They'd buy their expensive watch, put it on the wrist and not declare it, and then have the box shipped to them. And many years ago now, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs got very good at intercepting them and asking them where, you know, because all the papers were with it. So they asked them where the watch was, and the fine was much higher than the duty would have been on declaring the watch. So that's true in the US. People say it's $800, but the actual duty leveled on you is actually quite low. So, but the fine can be horrendous if you get caught. So, you know, I personally, the last time I thought about buying a watch was when I was in Zurich, and I realized I could buy the watch cheaper in the US anyway. Even with the airport discount and no tax, I could still buy the same watch cheaper in the US.
Yeah.
So, but you know, if I'm worried about it, just wear one watch. No, you know, same watch on the way in, same watch on the way out. It's a personal item. You're not going to get charged.
I wonder if this is why there's so many watches that have like no box and papers. Do you know what I mean? Because you hear that when you see on Chrono 24 no box and papers on a Rolex, you're like, who wouldn't just keep the Rolex box and papers? Maybe that's why. Maybe they're ditching the box and then.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say a lot of those people in those IWJG shows, as crazy as it sounds, boxes and papers, but boxes and all the other kit that comes with it is so non-traded that they really only sell you the watch and the papers. So all the booklets, all the boxes, you don't even buy those things. So it could just be that it went through the gray market.
Yeah. And normal people don't keep any of that stuff. I mean,
true.
Normal watch folk don't keep that stuff. It's an interesting little test you can run on, you know, when you're like me geeking out on data with Chrono 24. You can get a sense of which watches tend to be, if you like, tradable commodities within the hobby community versus which are real watches used by real people. By getting a sense of how many are for sale, first off, in new or near new condition, and secondly, how many for sale with box and papers versus without box and papers. And watches where there's a large percentage of them being sold without watch and papers tend to be real watches bought by real people. And watches where there's always box and papers, and you're talking Rolexes, tend to be more down the tradable commodity path. These aren't being bought by real people who want to watch. They're bought by people who want to be able to trade things.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
can buy that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, like, my wife took me out to a nice restaurant last night for you know, pre-Father's Day, and that's my great excuse to look around the room and see, you know, what everybody's wearing, because I don't know, that's just the fun thing to do at a restaurant. And you know, I saw a bunch of I'm not sure if that word's allowed on YouTube or not, so I won't say it. People who are, you know, wearing their glitzy Rolexes and Daytonas and all that, and of course that means nothing to me. But I looked over next to me, and there was an older gentleman who was wearing an IWC Big Pilot, and his wife was wearing a a GP Laureato, and I leaned over and I'm like, so who's the watch guy, you or you? You know, Tim or his wife, and you know, because like you said, Pete, I mean, no one's wearing that watch or those watches if they don't actually like watches. You know, they're not wearing them just because of hype police. And, you know, that was encouraging. And it turns out, you know, he's been collecting watches for 40 years. And, you know, we had a great little dinner conversation, which probably bored the crap out of my wife. But, you know, it was fun. And, you know, that's what I like to do when I go out and, you know, meet watch people, is try to hopefully find a real watch person who, you know, enjoys watches and not just the stuff.
Yeah, I had the weirdest experience a little while ago. There was a guy at work who's wearing a Mueller Glasoot, which is a pretty unusual watch. So I just assumed he was like into watches. Turns out he just happened to walk into the one AD in Australia when he was on holidays. He saw it. He said, "Oh, I like that," bought it, and wore it home.
I had an interview with somebody a couple of years ago that had a Cameron Weiss, had a Weiss watch. And I was like, "Oh, you've got a Weiss watch." He knew nothing about it. He just liked the look of it. And I'm like, how would you even know about that if you're not into watches?
I
mean, that one's particularly weird.
Yeah, but I said those are fun stories just of running into random people. As you said, I'm more apt to find a watch person. I would love to actually find how did you find that watch? Because that's kind of interesting to find non-watch people who found watch brand watches.
Yeah.
Well, this one was interesting because this particular brand is only sold from one AD, and the AD does 90% of their work online. So they set themselves up in Noosa, which for those of you who aren't aware, Noosa is like a big holiday place in Australia. So not because they want to sell to holiday makers, but they just figured if we're an online business, we may as well live somewhere nice.
Smart, very smart.
As it turns out, they actually end up selling to a lot of holiday makers.
Wow, I tell you what, just the final thought though, one of the most disappointing things I think about watch spotting when you're traveling is seeing what the pilots wear, especially in the US. Like I've never seen a pilot with a nice watch. They're always like Apple watches, or you're like, oh come on guys, like there's a whole genre just for you.
Yeah, but pilots' watches aren't worn by pilots, just like dive watches aren't worn by dive.
Yeah, they're like people cosplaying as pilots, as aviators.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of them too are like former military, so they end up just sticking with that G-Shock they had when they were in the service.
Yeah. You say, where are all the Breitlings? Anyway. Awesome. Well, guys,
all the Breitlings are worn by guys playing Microsoft Flight Simulator on a yoke in their PC. They're not worn by pilots anymore.
Oh dear. Well, yeah, the future drone pilots. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being active in the comments. Thank you for all of the questions, and big thanks to the panel. And we'll see you possibly on Tuesday, but if not, we'll see you for the Sunday Social next week. Thanks, everyone.
Have a nice Father's Day, everybody.
Have a good one.
Yes, happy Father's Day.